Hey everyone, welcome back to this new episode of Building Reframe. My name is Vishal Gautam and I am a full stack developer based out of Montreal, Canada. And in this video, we're going to continue with our journey of learning and mastering Reframe by looking at its source code. So in the previous episode, we looked at, okay, I'm not recording the screen, so I'm just going to make sure that I record the screen, because if I'm not recording the screen, which means the audio is probably not good. Okay, so now the screen is recording, which means that the audio must be a bit better, because I'm using, instead of using the microphone, I'm using the Shure. But anyways, so in the last episode, we looked at Reframe 0.2, which is basically the first Reframe that got released back in 2015. And basically we took the source and then we pasted it over here, and then we went each of the namespaces one by one. So you have the core namespace, which is basically importing the handlers, the subs, the router, and the middleware. And this is basically the API, right? So you have the dispatch functions, which dispatches events, the registration functions, the subscription, the middleware. We looked at middleware and how that works. We also looked at register handler, which basically does what registry event DB does. And yeah, so we looked at DB, handlers, middleware, and router, subs, undo, utils, right? So this is the first version that came out, and we also did an example over here. So we are in line number 4, we are requiring an aliasing as rf, and here we defined an initial state, and we have a register handler with an ID of init, and this function basically sets the state, which we are setting it over here. Dispatch sync here. So if I do this, see, the counter is gone. Oh, the counter is back. So yeah, this is Reframe 0.2. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy the 0.5.0, and we are going to replace and see what are some of the differences. So let's do that. Let's go to core first, and let's see what are some of the differences, right? Okay. So first I want to do is I want to copy utils. That's for utils. Undo. And we have utils. Okay. And let's do subs. Oops, let's also delete this. App reframe. And let's also do router. Router, middleware, handlers, okay, the DB, I guess the DB has not changed, so we will not copy DB, and finally the core. Okay, so as you can see, 0.5 was a breaking change, right? Actually, hold on, let's see if it is a breaking change or not. Oh, look at that. Reframe router. Something does not exist. Batch later. Something is not exist. Invalid app reframe router. Do later. Okay, let's great. What does the current implementation do? Source, registrar, router. After render, next tick. After render, interrupt, after render, interrupt, after render, next tick. Okay. Executor. Wait. Next tick. Interrupt CLJS. Async next tick. Okay. And let's go to registrar and let's fix this. So what not registrar, router, yes. Okay, so we copy this and after render. What is after render? After render. Region core after render. Okay, so do later. Right, after render is region core after render. Okay, so we had to tweak because I guess this one doesn't. Okay. Okay, so now it's working. So it is not a breaking change. As you can see, the app is working and we didn't have to change the API. So it wasn't a breaking change. I was wrong. Okay, now that we have now that I have copied all the 0.5 into reframe, let's stop this video and then let's continue with the next one. Okay, so now that we have the source code, let's go over the source. So going to core.cljs, now we have new APIs over here. So we have added app reframe utils, and this utils is being used. Where is this used? Utils. Okay, set loggers, which is a okay. So yeah, some API that set loggers, but we have yeah. Let's quickly go over this source. Okay. All right. So now that we have 0.5 copied, let's quickly go over the source. Right. So let's quickly. So instead of really, the whole idea here is just to get an idea of what changed from 0.2, and then we'll make why the changes were made, right? So first here we have, so let's do git stash, I guess quit git stash, and here you have dispatch sync, register, subscribe, and you have all these middlewares. And if I git stash pop, then we have this clear sub handlers added, right? And I think this log x was not there as well. So in terms of API change, a couple of APIs were added. This one is clear sub handlers, but we're not really interested in. If we are curious about it, we will look into it. But from the importance point of view, it doesn't look. It's better to wait. I mean, you obviously are curious what this function does, but I would rather wait. And first, I wanna scan over the whole changes. Then we can start delving into individual functions. So yeah, a couple of changes, right? So here, all these was added. So this is a new function. Alpha experiment. So this is new as well, I guess. Yeah, this is new as well. Okay, and this is definitely new. So before there was no on changes, there was no set loggers, there was no clear sub handlers, we didn't have utils, right? So we didn't have clear sub handler. Let's see how much. Oh shoot, I have 3%. I need to go get the charger. The thing is, I use my laptop while I'm on my bed, so I usually keep the charger there. But I need to set it up in such a way that I don't have to move. Probably I should get a separate charger, but yeah, we'll see. So let's go back. Okay, So the first change is line number 6. We have added reframe utils, and then we have also added clear sub handlers, and we also added the clear event handlers API, which references clear handlers from handler, which we will take a look into this shortly. And then we also didn't have on changes and set loggers. So on changes is a middleware. I know this because you can clearly see over here, middleware / on changes, and we went what a middleware is in detail in the last video. So if you are not aware of what middleware is, then yeah, please watch the previous video. And we also have set loggers in line 42, which set loggers. So here we have the description. It says reframe uses logging function. So it's a logging library, right? And finally, we have the register handler from, it's the same as from the previous video. So that's core.clgs, right? Let's see DB. So DB hasn't changed. Handlers, okay. So handlers. Let's see what else is changed. So let's go back. Okay, let's git stash. Git stash. Git stash pop. Okay. So this is the new one. This is the previous one. And the way how you know it, this is the previous one is, first of all, there's no color. So here green means something has been added and orange means something has been modified. So in Atom, because I use Clojure and ClojureScript using Atom because I'm used to the hotkeys of Atom. Rest I use VS Code, but I need to get used to using Clojure and VS Code first. I still haven't gotten used to it, so I'm still using Atom. Anyways, let's get back to the handlers. So so this is the 0.2, this is 0.5, right? So the first thing that we see is we have this report middleware factories, which we don't care what it does. And here also nothing really changes, right? They added a space, so this is a format issue. So this one we don't really care. And then look at this, clear handlers. So the ID function, right? So when you do the register base, you are ID function. So see, register base, what it does is it swaps, right? So when you do clear handlers, it unregisters all the event handlers. So this function is added. So for example, if I register base, right? Event ID function, right? Oops. Let's make sure that we are connected to the REPL first, and let's see this in action, right? We register. Okay, so now we already have, okay, so we have all these middlewares. So if I do clear handlers, right, and if I look up the ID function now, ID function, nothing. So this won't work now, right? I have essentially broken the app. Now it's very important when you are learning something, you have to play around with the library, try to see what this new function does, because that's how you learn slowly, taking step by step. Now that we know what clear handler does, right? Now that we have broken the app, the easiest way to fix this is just by refreshing, right? So now it works because when you refresh, it is refreshing the state. So when it refresh, it resetted all the middlewares, and it works. Now if I do clear handlers again, doesn't work, right? And let's do what happens with the register base. The handlers. Okay, so refresh, everything works. Okay, so now that we know what clear handler does, let's continue with our learning. We made some changes to handle, for example, over here, right? We have added all this. Let's do stash, get stash, get stash. So this is the previous version. Pop, okay. So this is the previous version. This is the previous version. And this is the new version, right? So let's see what they did. So if the handler is nil, then instead of warning, we throw an error, right? So what is this error? This error is coming from utils. Okay, let's just see what it does. Error is error. What? Error. Utils error. Warn, defen error. Okay, there you go. Function and args. Error loggers. So error is console error. Okay, so it just logs, right? It doesn't throw error. It just logs console. It invokes the error method from console object, and it logs this message. If the handler is if there's already another event that is being handled, so which is this case over here, which means that we don't want to. So this can only happen when you're calling dispatch sync, right? Or while handling dispatch sync was called for event. You can't call dispatch sync in an event handler. Okay. You can't call dispatch sync in an event handler. So this error might happen if you are calling dispatch sync directly, because reframe has two ways of dispatching an event. Dispatch is through asynchronous manner, and dispatch sync is using synchronously. So event handlers are treated as async handlers, so they are treated asynchronously. So this can only be set to true. So as you can see over here, we are defining a dynamic variable, and this is so that it remembers what it's calling. And here it does the binding, right? So as long as this handler function is running, it binds this handling to this event vector, right? So this handling is binding to the event vector that it's currently handling. And as soon as this handler finishes running, which we are doing in in the previous, in 0.2 we are not doing that, right? We are just we're just calling inline 77, but that's clearly not the case. We have added this over here because clearly at that time they must have realized that users were calling dispatch sync, because when you release these APIs to the world, you may not know how the users are going to use it. So probably some guys or girls, they probably used dispatch sync in an event handler, and probably something might have happened. So that's why they added it. That's why they added this binding, right? I mean, why would you add extra code? There was a reason for it, and this was obviously so that people don't misuse API, I guess. Okay, so now that we have seen handlers and how this handle function was changed, again, this handle function is called when you are calling dispatch. So so that's handlers, right? Next we have is middlewares, and middlewares, just quickly we're gonna go over. So we have added this logx middleware, which basically calls and which just calls the error method. And next we have the router, and in the router, okay, so the router is the most interesting part, which we will come back to this later. Let's look at the sub. Okay, so the sub is interesting. Subscribe. Returns a reagent reaction which observes part of the. Okay. And undo. You know what? I'm going to stop this video over here. I think I'm not really. I'm pretty tired, so I'm going to stop this, and we're going to continue in the next video. Bye.